Imagine being told that your future does not belong to you, not to your parents, not to your dreams, not even to the person you may one day hope to become. Instead, your life has already been dedicated to a power greater than yourself, the gods. Long before you understand what that truly means, decisions have already been made, paths have already been chosen, expectations have already been placed upon your shoulders. Today, we are stepping into one of history's most mysterious and controversial worlds, a world hidden behind sacred walls, a world surrounded by myths, legends, assumptions, and debates that continue even among historians today. When many people hear the phrase temple prostitute, they imagine they already know the story. Some picture luxury, some picture privilege, others imagine a life defined entirely by exploitation. But history rarely fits neatly into simple categories. The reality was often far more complicated. Behind every title was a human being, a young girl who once played with friends, a daughter who sat beside her family at meals, a person who carried hopes, fears, dreams, and uncertainties, just like anyone else. As we journey through this story, we will follow the life of a fictional temple woman whose experiences are inspired by historical evidence, cultural traditions, and the realities faced by women connected to religious institutions throughout parts of the ancient and medieval world. We will witness her childhood, her arrival at the temple, her daily routines, her struggles, her relationships, her fears about growing older, and ultimately, the truth about what happened when her usefulness came to an end. But before she ever entered the temple, before she learned its rules, before she understood its expectations, her story began somewhere much simpler. It began at home. Imagine a small house standing beneath the morning sun. The walls are simple. The furnishings are modest. The family works hard simply to survive. This is the world into which our young girl is born. She does not know it yet, but her future may already be taking shape. In many ancient societies, religion influenced nearly every part of life. The gods were believed to control harvests, weather, fertility, health, and fortune. Temples were not merely places of worship. They were powerful institutions. They owned land. They managed resources. They employed workers. They influenced politics, and they shaped communities. To modernize, it can be difficult to understand just how deeply religion was woven into daily life. People did not simply visit temples. Temples were often at the center of society itself. As our young girl grows, she hears stories of the gods. She watches festivals. She sees offerings carried through crowded streets. She learns that the temple is a place of power and importance. Yet she has little understanding of the role it may eventually play in her own future. Her parents face challenges common throughout the ancient world. Harvests can fail. Illness can strike without warning. War can disrupt entire communities. A single difficult season may threaten a family's survival. Under such conditions, decisions that seem unimaginable today could appear practical, even necessary. For some families, dedicating a child to temple service was viewed as an act of devotion. Others may have seen it as an opportunity. Some hoped their daughters would gain security. Others believed they were honoring religious traditions passed down through generations. Whatever the reason, the choice often belonged to adults rather than the child herself. And that child was expected to accept the future chosen for her. As the years pass, whispers about her future begin to grow louder. Conversations stop when she enters the room. Plans are discussed. Preparations are made. And eventually, the day arrives when her life will change forever. The day she must leave home. The day she must walk toward the temple. The day she crosses a threshold from which there may be no return. And as the massive temple walls rise in the distance, she realizes something she has never fully understood before. Everything she has ever known is about to disappear. The journey begins before sunrise. The air is cool, and the streets are unusually quiet. Most people are still asleep, unaware that for one young girl, this morning will mark the end of one life and the beginning of another. She walks beside her family. Perhaps her mother holds her hand a little tighter than usual. Perhaps her father remains silent, unsure of what to say. Or perhaps the family tries to convince themselves that this is a happy occasion, a sacred duty, an honorable future. But beneath the surface, emotions are far more complicated. Excitement, fear, confusion, sadness, hope, all mixed together. Ahead, rising above the city or countryside, stands the temple. From a distance, it appears magnificent. Massive stone walls catch the first rays of sunlight. Towering columns stretch toward the sky. Colorful banners flutter in the breeze. Smoke from incense drifts upward like a bridge between earth and heaven. To a child, it looks almost magical. Yet as she draws closer, another feeling begins to grow. The realization that this place is real, and that soon it will become her entire world. The temple gates stand open. Visitors, priests, workers, and worshippers move through them throughout the day. But crossing those gates for the first time feels different. This is not a visit. This is a transition, a moment that may define the rest of her life. Inside, everything feels unfamiliar. The sounds are different. The smells are different. Even the way people speak and move seems different. Temple officials greet the newcomers. Their expressions are serious. This is a sacred institution, and sacred institutions operate accordingly, yet training extends far beyond religious instruction.
In harmony,
Music often plays an important role in temple life. Songs and chants echo through ceremonial halls. Some women learn to sing, others learn to play instruments. These performances are not viewed as entertainment alone. They are considered acts of devotion, acts meant to honor the divine. The newcomer discovers that participating in such traditions requires patience and practice. Hours can be spent repeating the same melodies, the same prayers, the same movements, again and again, until they become second nature. But not every lesson is pleasant. Discipline is a constant presence. Temples are institutions, and institutions depend upon order. Those who ignore instructions may face consequences. Privileges can be removed. Extra work may be assigned. Reputations can suffer. The fear of disappointing those in authority often becomes a powerful motivator. At the same time, friendships begin to form. Among the newcomers are other young women facing the same challenges. They share uncertainty. They share homesickness. They share the difficult process of adapting to a completely different way of life. In quiet moments, they exchange stories about the places they once called home, the families they miss, the futures they once imagined. These friendships become important,
my friends,
because temple life can be lonely, very lonely, especially during the first months. Slowly, however, confidence begins to grow. The rituals that once seemed confusing become familiar. The corridors that once felt intimidating become easier to navigate. The faces that once belonged to strangers become part of daily life. For the first time, she begins to feel that she understands her place within the temple, or at least part of it. Because despite everything she has learned, there is still much she does not know. The public sees ceremonies, visitors see sacred rituals, pilgrims see devotion, but they do not see what happens behind the scenes. They do not see the countless responsibilities that keep the temple functioning day after day. And soon, the young woman will discover that most of her life will not be spent in grand ceremonies at all. Instead, it will be spent performing the demanding work that outsiders rarely notice. The work that begins long before sunrise and often continues long after sunset. The work that truly defines life inside the temple walls. When most people imagine life inside a temple, they picture grand ceremonies. They imagine crowds of worshippers, priests performing rituals, sacred music echoing through magnificent halls. And while those moments certainly existed, they represented only a small part of daily life. The truth was far less glamorous and far more demanding. Long before the first worshippers arrived, the temple was already awake. The day often began in darkness. A bell sounded through the corridors. Lamps flickered to life. Workers moved quietly through the complex. The young woman rose from her bed, knowing that a long day lay ahead. There was no luxury in sleeping late, no opportunity to ignore responsibilities. The temple depended on routine, and routine depended on discipline. Before any ceremonies could begin, preparations had to be completed. Floors were swept, courtyards were cleaned, sacred spaces were inspected. Dust was removed from altars and statues. Oil lamps were checked and refilled. Everything had to appear orderly and worthy of the gods being honored. This work was rarely noticed by visitors. Yet without it, the temple could not function. As the first light of dawn crept across the horizon, activity increased.
I am weary.
Temple kitchens became busy. Food was prepared. Offerings were organized. Water was carried. Supplies were distributed. Some women spent much of their day helping with these practical tasks. Others assisted in areas related to ceremonies and worship. Every role mattered. Every task contributed to the larger system. As morning progressed, worshippers began arriving. Some came seeking blessings. Others prayed for healthy children. Some requested protection before journeys or battles. Others simply wished to express gratitude. The temple became a place of constant movement. People entered carrying hopes, fears, and questions. And the women serving there often helped manage these interactions. They guided visitors, prepared ceremonial items, writing because behind every ancient temple stood not only stone walls and sacred ceremonies, but human lives shaped by hope, duty, and uncertainty. For generations, stories about temple women have been told as legends. Yet the historical reality was far more complicated. Modern historians continue to debate many of the claims surrounding so-called temple prostitution, and the evidence varies greatly from one civilization to another. In some places, women connected to temples held respected religious positions, while in others their roles were influenced by local customs, politics, and social expectations. There was never one universal experience. What remains certain is that these women were far more than labels found in history books. They were daughters, sisters, students, musicians, caretakers, and members of communities. Like everyone else, they experienced moments of fear, friendship, loneliness, and hope. They lived within societies where personal choices were often limited by family, tradition, and religious authority. Some may have found security and purpose inside temple life, while others may have dreamed of a different future. Historical records rarely preserve those private emotions, leaving much of their inner lives unknown. As the years passed, every woman eventually faced the same questions that have challenged people throughout history. What would happen as she grew older? Would she still be respected? Would her knowledge and experience give her a place within the community? Or would changing customs leave her behind? In a world without modern security or guaranteed support, the future could be deeply uncertain. Reputation, relationships, and the strength of the institution often determined whether someone lived in comfort or hardship. Perhaps that is the most important lesson history offers us. When we look at ancient temples, magnificent ruins, or impressive ceremonies, it is easy to focus on the buildings and forget the people who lived inside them. Yet behind every ritual stood ordinary human beings searching for meaning, belonging, and dignity. Their world was different from ours, but their hopes, fears, and desire for a better future were remarkably familiar. And that reminder may be the most enduring legacy they left behind.